So you join us back at the Manufacturer Studio here at Smart Manufacturing Week, where we are having a fantastic day one so far. And we have another interviewee over to the Manufacturer Studio. He's from Leonardo and it's Scott McManus. Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you for asking me on.
Are you enjoying the show so far? What have you been up to while you've been kind of going around the place?
It's been great. I arrived kind of later on this morning, but I've been trying to catch some of the shows. Leonardo in particular, we're looking at kind of IoT as our kind of next step on the journey, so been trying to take in some of those shows, and clearly later on today I've got a speech as well, so just preparing for that too.
Fantastic. So. Well, tell us a bit about that. What can people expect from your keynote today?
Well, it's really an overview of transformation journey to date. We come to these shows quite often, and quite rightly we see people talking about successes in transformation. I'm going to try and look at it through a lens of kind of failure and lessons learned. Because certainly my experience, the reality of transformation is quite different to what you might see at some of the stalls, or as I say, some of the success stories don't really cover the real transformation journey, which for me is all around failure and how you react to that.
Yeah, of course. Well, we've been to the Leonardo site in Yeovil, and it was really impressed to us there on that visit that the helicopter is an incredibly complex product to manufacture. So I'd imagine the digital journey at Leonardo is quite unique, and it's quite hard to compare it to any other sector. What's it been like for Leonardo?
Yeah, I was just talking about that to some of my colleagues as well. We are inherently a kind of low volume, high complexity manufacturer, whether that be in the helicopters division or the electronics division, and with that comes its own challenges. So in fact, part of my presentation later on today is about how we plan to essentially consume the data and digital element with our own capability, so we can meet the needs of the organisation, which, as you say, are quite niche in their own right.
Yeah, I'm sure. A lot of manufacturers seem to struggle to get their digital transformation projects off the ground. It can be quite a scary thing to start, can't it? But what would your advice be in that respect? What are those kind of low-hanging fruits that companies can do and that are achievable and that can get them started?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think we're lucky in Leonardo where at a corporate level we have an industrial strategy which is underpinned by digital transformation. So it really is the kind of heart of everything we do. We add into that we've got a really, really supportive senior leadership team, and that enables a lot of the movement forward. So you kind of start off with a bold ambition, probably not knowing quite where the journey's going to end. From there you can learn and fail fast and move through that journey. So I think it is important to try and gain some quick wins, whether that be in visualization or other areas, but it's also important to continually communicate the end goal with the organisation, so that you're creating an environment where failure and the kind of iterative and agile nature of transformation is accepted.
Yeah, I understand quite central to Leonardo's approach is actually disrupting some of the long-standing approaches in manufacturing, and I'm sure you'll go into that a bit in your keynote, but maybe could you just give us a bit of an idea of that?
Yeah, obviously I will go into it in my keynote, but a flavour of that would be, we don't have any paper-based meetings on the shop floor in terms of operations, so operations was our environment where we've piloted. We are fully connected to our core ERP system and other systems, and fully enabled from a production perspective to run all our meetings digitally. We're using Power Apps and visualization to support those meetings, and it really creates that single source environment. Again, I haven't seen any of that in the defence environment yet. I'm sure everyone's on the journey, but we really are disrupting, and we're using that disruption to drive the right culture in Leonardo, which again I'll cover in my keynote speech later on. Yeah,
and that is huge, right? Because actually bringing people along on a digital transformation journey is the most important thing, and can obviously be, can sometimes be the hardest thing. So how have you done that at Leonardo? How have you really brought people on board?
Yeah, as I said earlier on, we've got really a great level of sponsorship for senior leaders within the business, which obviously helps. We continually communicate the why. They've committed to it. We have a series of change agents within the business that support with that, but technology from a Leonardo perspective has certainly given us an objective way to challenge the culture, which I find really interesting. Previously quite difficult, siloed. We've got a set standard and process set that we run around now, and you're able to challenge culture and data inputs and other things using the technology, which is quite a critical step for us in our journey.
Obviously people coming here this week to hear about top tips and lessons learned. What would be some of your top tips from experiences that you've taken from Leonardo?
Yeah, don't underestimate the change. You've touched on people. That is by far the most significant part of the journey. Once you unlock the initial burden of technology, it eases from there, and then it's all about people and how they respond to that change. So that's extremely important. Know the difference between efficiency and value from an organisational perspective as well, because again, when you go on this journey, clearly you want to realise value for the organisation, and there is a subtle difference between efficiency and actual value for an organisation, so it's important to note that. And for me anyway, create an environment that you enable the teams to fail fast. There is one constant. Everyone's journey will be different when it comes to transformation, but for me there's one constant, and that's failure. So it's how you react to that as an organisation, and enable people to feel safe to make change to their day-to-day.
Like you say, creating that culture is really key, isn't it?
So that's critical for us, and I'd say those are the three key takeaways for me anyway.
Yeah, and then what does the future look like? Obviously, as we mentioned, the helicopter, such a complex product, but one that has really, I'm sure gained a kind of fascination among the engineers that work within Leonardo. So there's constant challenges, I'm sure, to overcome, and constant customer specifications for different type of craft. What does the future look like, do you think, for Leonardo in terms of that digital journey?
Yeah, I mean, the architecture that we've set up is really foundational. That's the way we see it anyway. We've structured the team in a way that it's the business transforming the business. It's not a traditional IT to business project. This is business owners within their own right, designing their own visualization and processes effectively. And really what we're going to try and do is overlay some capability now, like predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, those type of things. So as I say, we've got that single source architecture now we can build on, and it's really about allowing the organisation to get early warning signs from the data, but taking it a step further, maybe automating some of the transactional processes beyond that. So as I say, I think we've made great steps and strides in terms of that foundational architecture, and it's really how do we move ourselves into these new capabilities like Gen AI and other things.
Yeah, and then final question, just in terms of learning from each other, in terms of, you spoke about failing, sharing those failures among peers and among other companies. Why do you think that's so important, and why do you think shows like this are such a good vehicle for that sort of conversation?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you see the amount of people that are here today, so lots of industry peers here. Everyone will be in different parts of their own journey. I think it's important that we, as any organisation, are honest about that journey. As I say, it's very easy to come into these events and get caught up in some of the technologies, but the reality is each organisation will have a different starting point, and they'll have a different journey and end point. So for me, it's about trying to be honest about the challenges that you will face and readying yourself as an organisation to do that, because that's one thing that is for sure, that you're going to get challenges, you're going to fail. So whatever that end goal might be, it's important that you ready yourself as an organisation to do that, and this is a great way to be able to share some of your learnings.
Yeah, brilliant. It's great to get your thoughts, Scott, and enjoy the rest of the show.
No worries, thank you very much. Cheers for your time.